It's interesting because, you know, when I said that I think Manny Pacquiao is the greatest fighter to ever live, quite a few people online it was almost like I said something that was ridiculous, like aliens have just come down and invaded planet Earth. But now, you're getting more and more people coming out that are sharing the same opinion. I just saw a video which was a year old by Max Kellerman, who was saying that you could make a very good argument for Manny Pacquiao being the greatest pound for pound fighter that ever lived. And he kind of, you know, broke it down kind of similar to the way that I did in some of my videos. But look, at the end of the day, it's a matter of an opinion, because it's a combination of facts and an opinion. You can't force people to agree with you, but that's my opinion. So other people have got a different opinion on who they think's the best. But when you look at the facts don't lie. No one's achieved what he's done. He's an 8-weight world champion. He started off at like minimum weight, flyweight. Has fought all the way up to 154. He's beaten the best in his era. He's still going at 42. Most boxers don't last this long, especially in the lower weight divisions. And he beat a former welterweight champion who was like the third best welterweight in the world in Keith Thurman. So it's not a ridiculous thing to say. When people say that, it's actually ridiculous to say that someone's ridiculous for saying that Pacquiao is the greatest fighter, because he's achieved. His achievements alone make that not even argument, but that opinion, it makes it so. But listen, if you don't agree with it, obviously there were many other great fighters who achieved great things, but I haven't seen any fighter at any weight division, any point in history, who has achieved more than Manny Pacquiao in terms of the championships, the weight divisions. And also, a lot of people don't mention this, or maybe they do, but not enough, is the longevity. There's many champions that were great in history, but they only lasted 3 years, 2 years. Pacquiao's been going for 20 years. He's been at the top. You know, and people say, oh yeah, but he lost 7 fights. But who cares? He lost 7 fights because he fights the best. But he's won, you know, over 60 fights. Some of those fights, as we know, were robberies. So really would have lost less. But for me, that makes him even greater. Because most fighters, when they get beaten badly, they're never the same again. We've seen that in history. There's very few boxers who get knocked out in traumatic fashion, like Pacquiao did against Manuel Marquez, and came back later on and went on and even got better after that. And for me, just looking at styles, you know, they say styles makes fights. Well, styles makes me form my opinion as to who I think is the greatest, which is Manny Pacquiao, because of his style. It's such an attractive, exciting style to watch. Just be honest, although we do appreciate the sweet science of boxing, most people don't want to see a defensive fight. It's not what people want to see. It's not exciting. We want to see it in moments, because obviously it's important to have a defense, but we want to see action. We want to see aggression, especially casual fans. Nobody wants to see two boxers walking around the ring hugging each other or tapping at each other. We want to see a fight. And with Manny Pacquiao, that's what you get. You get a fight. You get an incredible fight. And he's a skilled fighter, so he can do all those things. He can box, he can use his jab, he can defend. That's what makes him great. He's not just a come forward, you know, bar room fighter or a brawler. He's way more than that, and he'd have to be to achieve what he's done. So there's no bias in this for me. I don't know why people have to bring in things like race or where someone's from, because for me that doesn't matter. It's how good they are as a fighter. And obviously, you guys are funny. One of you said, oh, this guy must have a Filipino wife. Well, I don't even have a wife to begin with, right? And I don't have a Filipino wife. It's got nothing to do. I don't speak Filipino, but it's because I love him as a fighter and I like the way he conducts himself as a person. The same way that I love, there's many fighters I love. Sugar Ray Leonard's one of my favourites. Nigel Benn, Joe Calzaghe. I've got loads of, but for me, when I had to make a decision, I'm not going to sit on the fence, Manny Pacquiao. And he's still going now. And that last fight, all the fights I've watched over the years, it's just been, it's incredible. It's, what can you say? And he's loved all around the world. He hasn't got that many haters. It's obvious, because he's a good human being out the ring. He doesn't trash people. He doesn't disrespect people. He's a good role model. I'm not saying he's perfect. Obviously, he's admitted that he had his trials and tribulations, and you know, with the alcohol and the womanizing. But who's perfect? None of us are. And then obviously he found God. He's improved and gives a lot of charity. I see him, you know, I see him treating people well. So for me, I don't judge it on that, but that definitely plays a part in me liking him as a person. But judging him as a fighter, I've seen loads of great fighters. So it wasn't an easy decision for me to make, obviously. It's not like I'm not wet behind the ears. Well, certainly with this hot weather, it would be strange if I was wet behind my ears. But, you know, I've been watching boxing for over 20 years. And I did boxing. I know how hard it is. And I've got a great respect for them. And I've watched lots of different styles. Loads of great fighters. All the great fighters that have come through the generations. Hopkins, Roy Jones Jr., De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, Mayweather. Obviously today's generation, Errol Spence, Crawford. You know, so many great fighters. Eric Morales, Antonio Barrera, all the great Mexican fighters. Lennox Lewis, Tyson. I went through all that era. I've been watching boxing for a long time. So, you know, it took me a long time to make this decision with Pacquiao. But you can't knock his achievements. But I'm not asking you to agree with me. I don't really care if you agree with me or not. It's my opinion and it's my YouTube channel. So if you don't like it, then cover your ears or don't watch the video. Or don't be so upset or so insecure and sensitive that you can't handle someone having their own opinion as to who they think's the greatest. I'm not going to start kicking and screaming because you say another fighter's the greatest. I respect that, that's your opinion, but don't tell me who I should like and who I shouldn't. That's my God-given right. I say who I want. So it is, yeah, a lot of people are saying it actually. Everyone, experts, the general fans, independent YouTubers, people from all different backgrounds, all walks of life say Pacquiao's the greatest. You know, a lot of trainers say he's the greatest. He fights everyone. He's unbelievable. What he's overcome. He's been an underdog in most of his fights. You know, he's a smaller man, naturally smaller, and now he's taken on Errol Spence. I mean, people are saying that alone makes him the greatest. Taking on probably the best welterweight in the world at the moment. It's up for debate out of him and Crawford. Pacquiao didn't need this fight, but he wants a real fight, as he said. So I find it interesting, and I can agree with people. But it's always going to be a difficult one because it's like saying, you know, and I'm a fan as well of Bruce Lee, but it's like someone saying, well, you know, Khabib would beat Bruce Lee, and he probably would beat Bruce Lee. We don't know for sure, or McGregor would beat Bruce Lee, and these guys probably would. Things have changed since then. Bruce Lee didn't have the fights these guys had. It's just facts. Obviously, we don't know 100%. Maybe Bruce Lee was that good, but it's that whole thing. People get upset because you don't say who everyone thinks you should say. Like people are conditioned to say who's the best. It's an opinion. But I've also based the opinion on an intelligent decision based on the facts, what he's achieved, which no one has. So I rest my case.